Welcome to the Start Strong, Finish Strong podcast with Greg Weiss. In this episode, I sat down with Jodette Cleary, Chief People and Culture Officer for hipages. We discussed the challenges of HR management and how to maintain the values of your organisation in these challenging COVID times. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm very excited to be here with you today in the podcast called Start Strong, Finish Strong with Greg Weiss, yours truly. And I love the idea of being able to have as my guest Jodette Cleary, who is one of my favourite people on the planet. She is the Chief People and Culture Officer with hipages. Hi, Jodette.
Hey, Greg. I'm really excited to have this chat with you this afternoon.
So am I, actually, and we are in COVID times. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see that we are having a Zoom conversation, and I'm in my office and Jodette's in hers, more or less at home, working from home. And this is going to be part of the conversation we're going to be having today. But there's so much that I wanted to be able to have Jodette share with you, because where she comes from is, and where she's at currently, is really with an organisation that is doing some excellent work, very much as a result of the work that you've been doing, Jodette. So before we get into that work and discussing about COVID times, how about a little bit of snapshot of who Jodette Cleary is and how you got into the role with hipages?
Okay. Well, I have been very blessed in my career that I have had the opportunity to work with some amazing Australian startups, and prior to that, some amazing global technology companies. So for the last 12 years, I have specialised in the Australian technology startup space, going in and consulting to Australian companies who are fast growth and needing the right people and the right people strategy in place in order to support that growth. So towards the end of my consulting, I really felt that I've loved consulting, but I'd like to stick around a bit longer and actually join a company that I could see real potential. And so that's why I joined the hipages team back in 2015.
Wonderful. And you've done some amazing things, because hipages was a considerably different offering at the time that you joined, and now where it's at. We're going to hear some of that story today. And there really is an amazing piece of work that we're going to be talking through, and who hipages is. You've prepared a presentation, and for those of you who will be listening as well as watching, at the end, we'll have these in the show notes, this presentation. So Jodette, why don't we actually get to the point where you get into control of the screen, and let's talk through who hipages is. And we're going to be talking through some context around hipages, COVID. I want to cover off some things about what you've been doing from a work from home and a culture preservation perspective.
Okay. Well, to start with, I thought it would be good to just explain who hipages is. A lot more people know who we are now than when I joined the team 5 years ago, which is fantastic, but still not enough people know. So I'll explain a little bit about who we are as a business. So hipages is the online platform that connects Australia with trusted tradies to simplify home improvement. We started in 2004 in the back of a garage, and we started as an online directory for trade services. Fast forward to today, 2020, and we have a team now of roughly 200 members across Sydney, Manila, and China. And we provide technology that connects homeowners with trusted tradies.
So can I hop in there, because you called your team members?
Yes.
So notice that's already an interesting distinction. Do you want to just help people understand how the company came to that nomenclature?
Yes. It's actually a very good pickup, Greg, because it's a key differentiator of us and how we treat our team. So our team in Manila and China are actually not employees. They're employed through a third party. So in China, we use ThoughtWorks, and in Manila, it's a BPO. Mm-hmm. From the very outset, we have treated them as exactly the same as the rest of the team in Sydney. So we don't distinguish and say employees and agents, etc. We talk about just everyone being part of the team.
Right.
And we do that for a very important reason, because we're all important and we all have something to contribute to our success.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a really helpful thing to do, and to create an amazing culture. We call it our one team culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk a little bit more later about how that's actually helped us through the COVID impacts.
Fantastic. Okay, back to the presentation.
Okay. So we have a guiding purpose, and that guiding purpose is creating happier homes through effortless home improvement. So creating happier homes for our consumers, or our users of our service, which is free for homeowners, because they have an amazing experience to find a tradie that they know that has been verified and they can trust. And for our tradies, we are helping to simplify connecting with customers for them. And so they have happier homes. They go home happier, having that part of their business much more improved. And then finally, for our team, we get to feel great and go home happy as well, by actually making an impact for our consumers and our tradies, as well as we've created a home away from home in terms of our office. And the challenge now is making that home away from home not just be about the office, but be about the whole work experience, while we have some working from home, some in the office, and some doing a combination. So now if we move through, oh, okay, my technology is going, oh, it's going to fail me. All right, here we go. So that in terms of some numbers for hipages.
Yeah.
So we've to date had 3.5 million people use our app or our platform. Roughly, we have around 30,000 consumers in our app in any given month, and we get roughly 100,000 jobs for our tradies a month. We have 36,000 customers as our tradies, and they're in-app 10,000 a month. And then we receive an amazing 12,000 recommendations a month. And so that's very important, because the recommendations feed into our star ratings for our tradies and help our consumers select who are they going to use.
Right. These are impressive numbers.
They are.
Mm.
So roughly, how does it work? So users basically, as I mentioned before, it's a free service. They post a job either on our website or on our app, and within minutes they are connected with up to three tradies that are available and interested to do their job. They can then compare the profiles and the quotes, and then they can hire the tradie all through our app and our platform. They can post pictures of their job, so that often we can avoid the tradie having to come out and quote, because through the description of the job and the pictures, that's often enough for our tradies. So again, one point of friction removed with what we offer. For our tradies, they get to create a unique business profile. They can add photos of their past work and recommendations from their customers to stand out from other tradies that they are competing for work. As I mentioned, we provide them job leads, and they get to stay in control. They choose a subscription that fits them in terms of how much work they want and the geographical area they want to cover. And then we obviously help facilitate payments, because they can get very fast payments through the app.
So I'm curious, given the business itself, what happened during COVID? How did you guys respond?
Okay, so unfortunately, when COVID first hit and the nation went into lockdown, our business was quite drastically impacted. I think everybody went into shock, and obviously people weren't in the mindset of getting jobs done around their home. So we saw a dramatic drop in people posting jobs through our platform. And then subsequently, we had some tradies think that maybe it's not a good time to be spending money on a subscription with us. So we did get a financial hit initially. However, we are true business partners with our tradies. We went and lobbied the government to make sure that tradies could be classed as an essential service. particularly if you imagine that you're staying at home more, you're forced to be at home, and if something goes wrong, your plumbing backs up, etc. That's going to be particularly unpleasant if you can't get a tradie to come in.
Particularly unpleasant.
Yeah. So sorry for that analogy, but that's reality. And so we managed to turn that around. However, because we are a subscription business, that did impact us. And unfortunately, we did have to do some downsizing. The other thing that happened is our team in Manila, we actually had a team of close to 100 people in Manila. Our team there, the Philippines government overnight mandated that no one could travel and everyone had to stay at home. So we had 100 agents that could not get into work and manage that operational side of our business. So we were forced to really fast track some of our automation plans and take a lot of things that were on the phone and put them into messaging and other means that the Sydney team could manage. And look, as a result, we did have to unfortunately downsize our Manila team, as well as some of our Sydney team. So that's very, always very distressing for everybody. We also asked our hipages team to take a temporary pay cut to help us get through. And a lot of companies ask their team to work 4 days a week and get paid 4 days a week. We asked the team to work harder than they've ever worked and take a 20% pay cut.
Right.
We managed to get 100% of our Sydney team agreeing to that situation. And that helped us enormously to get through from a financial aspect. And I think it's a testament so much to our culture and the commitment that everyone has to the business that we did achieve that. And so I'm extremely proud of the hipages team for doing that. What's great is we were able to stop that pay reduction early because the team did work amazingly hard, and we managed to turn things around very, very quickly and get things back on track. And obviously after the initial impact of COVID and the government declaring the tradies could be an essential service, we were able to get our business back on track in terms of the financial metrics.
Right. So what's fascinating, Jodette, is everybody agreed to a 20% reduction, but then they were expected to work harder than they've ever worked before.
Yeah, we said, look, guys, we need everyone. We have an amazing team of incredibly talented and smart people. And, you know, there was no time we needed them more than during this time to help us.
What was behind it? Because that actually, to your point, that's really testament to the quality of the culture of your organisation, so that other people can learn about this. What do you think was the fundamental part of your culture for that?
I think, look, we've had a really good culture, great engagement levels, you know, recognised externally as a best employer, great place to work, etc. People genuinely love the work that they do and the company, and we are very transparent in terms of our internal communications. So we laid it out on and just said, look, this is what's going on, this is what we need. And as I said, to get that 100% agreement is pretty powerful. And look, it was also, you know, if we had even 90% agreement, it wouldn't have had the same feel, because then there would have been a bit of a, well, who didn't agree? And, you know, so it was a kind of a, we're all in this together. And as I said, I'm really, really proud of the team for doing that and helping us get through.
Because I've been dealing with a number of businesses over this period, and yours is the first that I heard of that took a reduction, and 100% of the people agreed to stepping up. Which is really fantastic. It's extraordinary. And to your point, it's if it wasn't 100%, then it just wouldn't have been that foundation of trust. So I'm curious, what we'll do is we'll go into the values shortly, but I'm curious for us to be able to explore what those values were and what the essence of the culture is within within hipages, and that glue that helped things move forward during these very difficult times.
So the other challenge that we had is that we have what I call 3 subcultures within the business. So we have our Manila team, and then we have our technology teams and our support function. And of our technology and support function, 90% of those team members have laptops and already enjoyed regularly working from home, some work flexibility. And then we had our sales and service team in Sydney who were on the phone. And with that team, they did not have laptops. So we had the challenge of how do we get everybody enabled to properly and effectively work from home within days. And with our sales and service teams, they often have 2 screens because they're helping the customer and needing to look at Salesforce and other systems. And so we needed to get them that equipment and get that to their homes and set them up at home in rapid speed, which again was just testament to our IT and operations team who worked amazingly to get that done. So we did that, but as I mentioned, we had difficulties in Manila. That was a harder situation. We did over time enable about 50% of the Manila operations to work from home.
Right.
And then there was the whole taking our everyday processes and putting them online, but not wanting to, I guess, erode the wonderful employee experience that we have created with everything we do in the business. So a great example is onboarding. And so we had people starting with us during this time and needing to start working from home. So how did we create that amazing welcome, which we're legendary for? And so my team really just put our heads together to put those processes online and make sure that the team members felt very welcome and everyone else knew that they were joining and were also welcoming. And so again, just lots of things that you don't think about that you had to work very, very hard to get up and happening very quickly. We did a lot of training for our leaders and for individuals about working from home, tips on how to do that effectively for our leaders, what they need to do differently. And we managed to get that out very quickly again. So supporting our team to do their best work every day when we're asking them to work so hard in an environment that is, you know, was scary and remains so. And so we needed to at least take any roadblocks away from them in terms of any barriers to get their work done.
But this was a brave new world. I mean, we're still in this brave new world. And I would imagine that you would have been making this up in some respects as on the run. You actually, the magnitude of people working from home had never been experienced before. And it's the same thing with your organisation. So to come up with how to and the training on, I'm curious, can you share just even that alone? How did you deploy that quickly, and how did you actually come about thinking that was required about effectively working from home in a distributed way?
Well, it wasn't just hipages. I have never been more proud to be part of the HR profession. I could see, and I stay in touch with lots of different HR networks, HR people stepped up everywhere globally and was sharing what they were doing, what was working, what wasn't working. And so, yes, we kind of ideated and came up with some of our own initiatives, but we were at the same time looking to see what other companies were doing as well. And some of the other companies had gone into lockdown earlier. Sorry, the other countries had gone into lockdown earlier, so we could learn from them as well. So yeah, look, we're the type of team that are innovative and creative, very agile, staying in touch with what needs to happen for the business. So it wasn't too much of a different way of working for us. It was just, there was a lot more that we needed to do in a short period of time.
So you were talking about working out effectively how people could work from home. So how did you create a productive team, your members working productively from their homes?
Okay. Well, look, the key really has been communication. We've always been pretty good, but we're going to say double down. I think we tripled down on communication. We pretty much immediately started with a weekly town hall where we would give an update on what's happening in terms of government mandates and rules and regulations, because quite frankly, it was pretty confusing and there was different rules depending on where you were. And so we let our teams know here in Manila particularly what was actually happening, because there wasn't a lot of information necessarily coming, particularly in the Philippines, to our team. We talk about our business performance, what's going well, what's not going well, what we needed to focus on. And then we, at the end of every kind of business side of the town hall, we created a safe social space. So for those who were feeling isolated, missing their work colleagues, we would stay on and have a joke and have a talk, and nothing to do with work, but just connect as humans. And that was really great. And then we had already had some really good practices and processes in the business, such as daily team stand-ups, and we use collaboration technologies such as Zoom, Confluence and Slack, but we weren't using it consistently across all teams. So some of the teams needed to learn this technology and start using that, which was a focus of us as well. And then we found that the personal touch and the genuine care was so important. So my team literally rang everyone in the business to check in, and we asked leaders to check in via phone and have a conversation with their team members every week. And so I think that really high touch, genuine caring really made a difference as well. We knew that what was going on in the community and the fear that was there, that and people being isolated or having issues with working from home, there's going to be an impact on mental health. And therefore, but we didn't have a lot of budget. We were looking at cutting costs, and therefore, we went out to look at the skills in the business, who had whatever different skills, and we found someone who was expert at doing guided meditations, and we started doing Zoom guided meditations for those who wished to do it. We found someone who did personal training. We were doing Zoom personal training sessions a couple of times a week. And then we did fun things like daily challenges to the whole company, where we would share something personal about us and we could each learn a bit more about each other. We did team charity challenges. It's always good when you're thinking life's tough to reflect that others are actually doing it more tough. It's very humbling. So we actively encouraged our team to contribute to various charities. And then we also ran across a 6-week period a positivity at work program through the Positivity Institute that I can't recommend higher. It was amazing, and got a lot out of that program. We made sure we celebrated the wins. It was not all doom and gloom. So we made sure that on a weekly basis, which we used to do monthly, but on a weekly basis, we did shout outs and thank yous, peer recognition. 6 weeks in, we wanted to see how everyone was going, and we ran an engagement pulse survey, and we actually got our highest engagement levels.
Wow.
Which was such a wonderful thing, particularly for the people and culture team, because we'd been working so hard to get that acknowledgement that what we were doing was making a really positive impact for our team members, which was fantastic.
Mm.
And then we started hearing from team members who were just not working well at home for various reasons. They might have young children, their technology wasn't working in terms of internet or what have you, or they just really missed the social aspect of work. So instead of just saying, no one can come back to the office, we worked extremely hard to set our office up. And you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, the extent we had to go to set up our office as a COVID safe certified office, in terms of marking the floors for people to walk and limiting numbers in the kitchen, things like that, putting the temperature stations at the entrance, etc. So we had a return to office plan, And we went from an employee first perspective. So those who, as I said, wanted to come back, we enabled them to come back. And some of the people came back full time and others chose to just come in a couple of days a week, whatever worked. And then with the situation in Victoria that happened recently, there was a more fear from our team members who, we said, if you want to go back to working full time from home, that's no issue. So we've just really tried to accommodate the diversity of needs and the diversity of experience for people. And then finally,
sorry, go on, Jodette.
Yeah, so finally, we wanted also to reward all of the hard work and the loyalty. And loyalty is a strong word, but it was absolutely what the team did. And so we had an employee share program that was due to come to an end on the 30th of June that had financial metrics linked to the allocation of those shares. And obviously, with what had happened in the business, we weren't going to meet those financial metrics. And the board agreed to award everybody their full allocation of shares, which was such an important and right thing to do. And I think that was very well accepted by the team. The other thing that we love at hipages is having a party. And so we have 2 parties normally a year, end of financial year party and an end of year party, end of calendar year party. And we weren't able to do that. And so my team again thought about, well, how can we still let people know that they're appreciated? And we had these amazing hampers made up full of hipages swag and treats and personal messages. And they were personally delivered to everyone with a helium balloon when they opened it up, helium balloon of hipages that came out of the box. So that was pretty special and really delighted the team. Wonderful.
So, and all these points, I mean, congratulations on a 95% engagement level. That's just, it's extraordinary. And there are many things that you hit here. I think it's particularly amazing about, and clearly engaging, that the board agreed to a full allocation of the shares. That's very motivating. I'm sure that must have engaged people even more so.
Yeah, very much so.
It's fantastic. So that's and I'm curious, Jodette, just with this, because a lot of this stuff is, okay, you talk about you were networking in with other people within the HR profession, but there's a lot of stuff that you had to think about, which was how the glue to keep the organisation together, instead of being in one place, clearly distributed, but you had to come up with a thinking around this. And was this, at what point was it that you worked out what the priorities were, what you would work on and what you wouldn't work on?
Well, our first priority absolutely was enabling people to work productively at home when there was no in-office option. That was pretty obvious. It was just something we needed to do. And the initial focus was just technology set up and making sure people had what they needed to do. And the second priority was then communication. People would feel, what's going on with my team? And I don't have my manager there standing talking to me. So again, that was just fairly logical to need to focus on that. And then the creativity came in. How do we try and bring some happiness and lighten the mood a little bit to the team? And that's where my team really stepped up, and a very creative team. I'm extremely lucky to have an amazing P&C team. So they came up with, the personal training sessions and the guided meditations and all of this stuff. And then, we went out and sought who would want, who could do these things for us. So yeah, it was a lot of collaboration, which is one of our key values, which we're going to talk about a bit later. But that was just really living one of the hipages values.
Fantastic. So, Jodette, we've talked about where you've come from. So this next slide. So, so what is next?
What is next is nobody's got the answers. That's the reality. And what's right for one organisation might not be right for another. So in true hipages style, we've created what we're calling a new ways of working task force. We've got a clear objective. That is, how do we keep our amazing collaboration and innovative culture with some people in the office, some people working from home, some people doing a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
How do we keep being productive and achieving what the business needs us to achieve? So we have representation from all teams and different seniorities. And we're literally starting with doing a retrospective. So each of the team members of the task force go back and do a deep dive with their teams on what's worked, what hasn't, what are they observing, what ideas do they have, and then bring that back to the task force and we share, we see what's common across different teams, what's different. We're also at the same time doing research. What are other companies doing? And learning from some amazing things that other organisations are doing globally. We've also just done another engagement survey, wanted to check in from that level as well. And the plan is then that the team will categorise different ideas and recommend that to the senior leadership team. And we're going to have a test, learn and adapt approach, which is we're going to try some stuff. Some stuff's going to work, some stuff's not going to work. And that's totally fine. And going in with that kind of approach and continue to monitor engagement and productivity and see what works and customize for hipages.
Sounds like a great approach. And I like your canvas there.
Yes, that's a technology we've been using called Mural. And it basically is for facilitating workshops, and everyone can write on sticky notes just like you would in a physical workshop and add them into different areas. And this was a nice template that my talent development manager found for us, which was really about just, I guess, putting the structure of the task force together. How is that going to look? What are our values as a team? What's our purpose as a team? Who's going to do what? What are the rules? What areas do we need to be mindful for in terms of any weaknesses or risks? Yeah, this was just a snapshot of how we were putting that together at the kickoff of our task force meeting.
And that's called Mural. This
yes,
Mural, M-U-R-A-L.
Correct.
Okay, nice. So we'll have this in the show notes for people who are only hearing this, but it's worthwhile having a look at. Okay, so it looks like it's a smart plan moving forward. I like your idea of testing some things out, just trying it out, learning, adapting, and redoing it again.
Yeah.
Seeing what works.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, I'm amazed, Jodette. Really, it's fantastic. There are a lot of things that you've shared that there's so much that people can learn about how you were able to survive and frankly thrive during this particular time. It doesn't come easily. The things that I remember about what you'd said were people were all in it together. It was all or really it just wouldn't work. So it was an all or nothing approach, and that everybody cohesed together during this. So it's testimony to the culture, testimony to the values of the organisation. And I'm curious because during these times it's so hard to keep that all together. What are the values? What are the values of hipages?
Okay, so we have company values as well as what we call our DNA, and then they are our, they're the supporting behaviours that drive our culture. Then we've also introduced a couple of years ago a leadership charter, which went into very detailed behaviours that we expect of our leaders. We had been hiring a couple of leaders in maybe from some bigger companies that had a very different leadership style to what we considered hipages leadership style. And we went, oh, hang on, we probably should document what hipages leadership style is so that we are hiring in leaders that are happy to espouse those behaviours. And so those three things, our DNA, our values, and our leadership charter, is really what drives the behaviours in the business, and that feeds into the culture. Look, I honestly don't think it matters too much what the values are. It's just how they are referenced and how they are made to live. I can share that. So we obviously in employee, actually even at the recruitment stage, we ask people to let us know which values that resonates with them and how
which of their own or which of hipages?
Hipages values and what resonates with them and how they would bring those to life in the job that they're applying for. Right through to induction, explaining how they're important, obviously reinforced in our performance management processes, our reward and recognition in terms of the two big celebrations that we have at the end of financial year and end of year, but also in our monthly shout outs. So we're constantly reinforcing. We even came up with a physical values wall. So it's a movable, movable screen, and we've got a little Polaroid photo of everyone in the company. And then we have values cards. So our values printed out on little business size cards. And we encourage people just to do, sometimes anonymous, or they can write their name, just an acknowledgement to peers of something that when they've seen them living a value and they've been impressed by that. And then they pop that behind the photo. And this wall is up near the kitchen, and you walk into the kitchen, you're like, oh, I've got a card behind my photo, and you go and have a look and someone's acknowledged you for something that you've done, and it really does make our day, to tell you the truth. And so, yeah, that's a physical way of doing that. And so the challenge is, we haven't yet done this, but the challenge is we have to now make that process online as well.
Yeah.
So, because it was such a great way of, getting that peer-to-peer recognition, which I think sometimes is even more important than your manager recognition, is from your colleagues. And so we really just reinforce them. We don't put them up on the wall and then forget. They are part of what we do. When we're making big decisions, we reference our values. We start every town hall with talking about our company purpose and sharing stories about how we're bringing that to life. So we're pretty, I guess it's just the discipline, the discipline of not thinking it's interesting anymore, so move on to the next shiny thing, but the discipline of just making that part of the framework of our communication and how we acknowledge great work, because it's great work, but it's also how it's done that makes our great culture.
And I've walked into your offices, seen that recognition board, thought it was an absolutely brilliant way that you were able to institute the reinforcement of values at work. Curious about the challenge of keeping that together and having that program when you've got a workforce that's distributed. And just if I can circle back, because there's values, you mentioned DNA of the organisation. What's the distinction? And then you also talked about a leadership charter. And it was a way in which you made sure that the leadership behaved as if they were embodying the values, the things that were right to underpin the culture. I'm just curious about the distinction about how you see it in terms of the distinctions between values, DNA, and that leadership charter.
Okay, so the DNA, which our DNA is make it happen. That just underpins everything we do. If you see something broken, don't wait because it's someone else's issue, just go and make that happen, right? So that's just a real call to action that goes across everything. And it speaks to our empowered culture. You know, we're empowering people in that statement, make it happen. And so with our values, they're more the ways that we do things and what we emphasize. So again, for example, collaboration is a core value, innovation, creating value in what we do, being of service is another. and then being genuine. We're a very down-to-earth organisation. So those values describe more our behaviours, right? But that DNA is kind of that really just go and get it done, right? Because we're a fast growth company. And then finally, our leadership charter is there's certain behaviours that and power structures that come with leadership. And we wanted to challenge that and make sure that our leaders were consistent in the way we lead, which is, as I mentioned again, very collaborative. We don't want to be a top-down organisation. We want very much to have input from everyone in the team. And so we just defined there's 12 different behaviours that were important. And we, you know, the leadership team went out and spoke to, I guess, the next couple of layers down in terms of what they see and what they would value in terms of the way they're being managed and how they like to manage and how they would describe the hipages way, because there is a hipages way even before you document that. So it was really just capturing that. And then we did an amazing launch of that where we actually used, I guess, an Aboriginal custom, which is to physically sign up to that, where we spray painted our handprint on the wall, and then we signed it, and we were signing up to the charter because it was that important that we wanted to be consistent in that area, and we were saying we would live by those. So it was a physical demonstration of that commitment. So that's how I see the distinction. They all interplay, but they all guide our behaviours ultimately. And I think, as I said before, that really drives our culture and keeps our culture as we grow. The other thing is we're lucky that we are already a technology company. We already use some great collaboration technology, and you know, so we already have so for example, our HR system, we use a system called Namely, and that has like a Facebook feed, and people post updates and shout outs to peers, and we have everyone in the company, again, not just employees on that system, all of the team are on that system and use it as a communication tool. So we'd already put in practice, because we had a distributed workforce across Manila and China, a number of these reinforcing ways of reinforcing our DNA, our behaviours and our charter.
It's fascinating. I've learned a lot about the DNA side of things. I was thinking about it's make it happen. It's like the Nike just do it type situation. So I'm just curious around the DNA, how that came about. Jodette?
You actually asked me a question that I don't know. When I joined hipages, one of the reasons I joined was the DNA and values that the company had. So that was a deciding factor for me. And the way that the founders viewed people. So yeah, I don't actually know how that came about, but all I know is that it really has guided the business for a long time. And my job was just to bring those values even more to life, and particularly with new members joining who haven't been around and weren't around when they were formed, make them mean something to everybody equally.
And can I ask, just to that point, when new leaders join the organisation, do they also spray their hands?
They do. They do. Luckily, we have a big office and a big wall, leadership wall. Yes, they do. And
fantastic.
I like that because it also shows the history of leaders who have been with us in the past and might have moved on. And yeah, it's something that is very special for our new leaders.
Very special. It shows that there's a real commitment. It's literally a hands-on commitment to making it happen, which is great. I'm curious. I mean, given that we're living in COVID times, just as we're coming towards the end of our time together, how do you feel you're going to be able to make these values still live, this DNA still happen? It's a lot harder in a distributed environment than seeing it by osmosis.
Yeah. Well, I kind of see things as while we're dealing with COVID and then after COVID. And so while we're dealing with COVID, there are people who are genuinely just fearful, don't want to come into the office, and we're not going to force them. And so we have to keep things moving during that time. And then there will be, when we have the vaccine and, you know, life can go back to normal, but it won't go back to the old normal, and nor should it. It wasn't working for a lot of people. And so how do we then, you know, communicate and collaborate? So I kind of see it as those two phases, because employee safety and employee well-being has to come first. And so with COVID, it's more, okay, let's just work through, there's going to be team members who aren't in the office ever. And so how do we make that work? And then post-COVID, I see the office being more of a collaboration space. You're coming in specifically to do brainstorming, workshops, in-person training, those things that really are better in person, which I think we've experienced these things. And yeah, you can kind of bumble through, but it's not as good as that physical interaction. And so how do we make that work? But then how do we make sure that that's not excluding team members who are not living in Sydney, which is where our head office is. So, you know, it's a challenge. I don't have all the answers. I just know that we are working on it. We've got incredibly smart people, and I'm hoping they come up with the answers, quite frankly. So,
and you'll test, learn and adapt.
Yes, we will.
That's it. So, it's fantastic. Well, today's the 24th of August, and I was listening to a report by EY where they were looking at the future of work as well, and from their own organisation, a lot of people just also don't want to go back to work ever in this capacity, in the prior capacity, in the prior way. And so it's not surprising to hear that work will become a place of inspiration and collaboration, and then going back out. So it's not using work spaces as it used to be post-COVID, but very likely to be a place where people can come together, cohese,
socialize. That's the big word for me. That's what I missed. And I am a people person, and whilst, you know, I can work from home, I really missed seeing people. And, you know, so now being back in the office 2 or 3 days a week is great for me. I'm getting the benefits of both. And I think that's what the majority will do. And then there'll be opportunities for people maybe to live further away and only come in maybe once a quarter or once every couple of months or something. So we just have to kind of navigate through and see what works. But the test is, you know, that connection and making sure people still feel seen and feel their contributions matter, even if they're not physically in the office.
Jodette, we covered a lot of ground today, and you can see, and for those of you who are listening, you can understand why Jodette's one of my favourite people. She's extraordinarily capable. The organisation's clearly going through some huge change, as every organisation has experienced in these COVID times. But how amazing is it, and it's really inspirational to see and to learn what hipages has done, and really congratulations on spearheading that, collaborating with the senior leadership and making sure that whatever it takes, that everybody's up to it. But what I've learned is a few things. One is the different levels, values, DNA, leadership charter. I love that. Loved learning about the leading up to things about hipages, and that there's this fundamental set of modus operandi, these how you go about doing that, and no matter what impact COVID has had on things, that how you've worked hard to keep it all together. And it sounds like hipages, through your leadership and the other senior leadership team, is going to go from strength to strength. So, so wonderful to hear this. We're going to put Jodette's presentation in the show notes, and I'm going to encourage that what we do is we hear again from Jodette in a time when she's learned about what they ended up doing that worked, and for us to learn again about the hipages experience. So thanks very much, Jodette. And from me, the host of Start Strong, Finish Strong with Greg Weiss, and my bobblehead. Somebody gave this to me from a very dear friend, gave this to me for a key birthday.
I'm jealous. I want a bobblehead as well. And
it's amazing, isn't it?
It's been lovely chatting, and I hope our experience at hipages can help other organisations. And it's all about making work more human and working for everyone. And it's, you know, the future looks bright. I mean, I know we're in a tough situation now, but hopefully we really learn from this and create a better way of working for everyone.
Absolutely. And last but not least, if anybody has a tradie job for their home or their office, hipages.com.
And download the app.
Okay, fantastic. That's it. There's the plug. Nice to spend time with you.
You too. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for listening to the Start Strong, Finish Strong podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share the podcast with your teams, and of course, we'd love you to leave a comment or review.